Hello, everyone. Hello, attendees. Welcome to the this is a comprehensive guide to F5 NGINX for Azure, but really it's a wide open Q&A session. We have a number of hosts on the line with you today, representatives from Azure as well as F5 NGINX. We are well staffed to address any questions at sort of any technical depth that you might have. We're excited and appreciative that you stopped in to chat with us. So with that, we'd love to sort of open the floor to any questions that you may have. You're welcome to, I believe you can come off of mute and just ask questions, as well as drop them in the Q&A in Teams. So either one is great. We welcome live voices and live conversation. It's always a bit more interactive that way if you're up for it. Oh, sorry, this is a live event. Maybe you can't do that. Apologies. So while we wait, okay, you can use the Q&A. Apologies for that. You cannot come off of mute and use your microphone, but you can use the Q&A. So let's jump in here. I don't see any new questions yet. While we wait, we're happy to tell you a little bit about the service. There's a very high level overview slide that's that you can all see. We are, just so you're aware, this is the result of a joint effort between F5 NGINX and the Azure Lifter team. We've been at this for a couple of years now, so it's the product of a lot of time and effort, and I think you can see that in sort of the results. This is more than just a a marketplace listing where you go in and grab an image and apply it to a standard compute instance and sort of roll your own that way. In this, it's a full SaaS or as a service offering, meaning that just a few clicks from the marketplace, you can automatically install the software and get into the configuration. So I'll continue on sort of the overview, but let's jump into some of the questions here. So Srini's asking, can we use this with Kubernetes? Anyone on the NGINX side want to jump in?
We don't have very good integration as an ingress controller at the moment, but you can specify your Kubernetes nodes as upstream servers here, and it will route traffic.
Okay, so we have another sort of similar question. It says, we use NGINX as an ingress to our AKS apps. Can you talk through some of the features that can be utilized in this use case? Nathan, Sean.
I take this one because it's very similar to the previous question. It's almost the same question.
As I said a moment ago, we don't really support the Kubernetes ingress resources or the new gateway resources, but if you define an NGINX config specifying the Kubernetes nodes, for example, a service of type node port on your nodes and define those nodes in your NGINX conf, you can then create an NGINX configuration that will route traffic to there.
Yeah, I want to add a few points. I think these are really good questions. So as if today for public preview, we expose a limited set of NGINX, but I think that's a great direction that we will consider to support, especially considering that from the ingress controller perspective, essentially we need some plugin into the Kubernetes cluster that can dynamically update the upstream configuration. And there is a potential for such a plugin that use the API we already exposed to update the NGINX for Azure configuration to support update for the ingress. So I believe these are things, features that we might consider after the public preview for more native integration with Azure with Kubernetes service.
Yeah, thank you for that, Yanbing. And I think that this next question is sort of, again, on the same path. Are there plans to improve support for Kubernetes ingress? So I think the point that Yanbing was making is a good one, in that we've started off with sort of a limited use case. And we are, but we certainly intend to expand that here over the short term. So NGINX, as you're likely aware, it can be, there are many directives for NGINX that can be configured to fulfill a lot of use cases beyond layer 7 load balancing. So we certainly intend to expand as quickly as we can, but better support for Kubernetes would certainly be something on the roadmap. I see we're up to 32 attendees now, so hopefully some of you arrived with questions in hand. We're here to answer them. I'll continue a little bit on the overview. So we as I mentioned, it's a full as a service offering, meaning you get full lifecycle management of the service. Beyond the automatic install, you also get any patches, updates as part of the service. We do integrate with a number of the core services, the Azure core services, as in a native fashion, as you would expect it to happen. So some of those, as we talked about before, are Active Directory. So all the critical information about your environment, what the users and computers or instances in your environment are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. Azure Key Vault, so SSL, TLS, cert automation, and security for your keys and passwords. Azure DevOps, it's a quite a broad service, but things like version control, automated builds, testing, release management, you can do all of that there. We also support GitHub Actions, so you can automate the updates to your NGINX configuration files through your CI/CD workflows. You can also do secrets management there. And then, of course, Azure Monitor. So you have that single pane of visualization across multiple deployments of NGINX, which comes in handy certainly for observability purposes. Let me see what else is here. I will say this is a service that you can only get on Azure. So everywhere else that NGINX shows up in terms of cloud service providers, it's the more standard marketplace listing, where it's more of a roll your own type of offering. And this is the only place you can get this native experience, this SaaS offering for NGINX. Okay, we have another question just in time. It says, do you support scaling based on traffic load?
At the start of public preview launch, we do not support that use case at the moment. That is very near on our upcoming roadmap as one of our more requested features.
Cool. Let me see, any other topics amongst the panelists that we think we want to cover here while we wait for more questions? Anything anybody wants to talk about?
So I think we can kind of break this down into kind of two pieces. So for I guess Nathan, so let's kind of focus on the last question that was asked. Given the what's kind of coming up in regards to scaling, can our customers scale based on just the data flow, or are they able to basically do any kind of custom metrics that that the service can scale on?
What we are considering for our first pass at this right now is that the user would set a minimum and maximum scaling boundary, kind of similar to the autoscaler profile on Azure Kubernetes Service, for example. And that the metrics that we're already gathering about how well NGINX for Azure is operating and at what capacity it's being used would then be the input to scaling out or in, but staying within the bounds the user specified.
Fantastic, fantastic. And then another thing that I guess some of the questions that came up with other folks was the whether when is the data terminated, or where is it terminated? Can a customer take the data that comes from NGINX as a service and perhaps route it to in other VNets, or perhaps even to on-prem?
NGINX for Azure behaves as if it is in your virtual network. It is injected into your virtual network, and so the Azure network scenario that you set up, NGINX for Azure will pay attention to that. If you have peered this virtual network with another virtual network, or if you have a VPN gateway in that network, you can set any of those as upstreams in your NGINX configuration, and we will proxy traffic to there. There is currently an exception that we do not support private endpoints at the moment, but that is also coming up in the future.
Cool, awesome. I see another question on the Q&A. And when should we use YARP or NGINX? I think this was also asked in a different session as well. Eric or Nathan, do you guys want to take that?
I can try. I don't have very much experience with YARP. I've read the webpage once or twice. My take from what I've seen of it is that it is written in .NET and is intended to be highly customizable for .NET developers. But I don't know really what its feature set is, what you can customize about it, so I can't really contrast there.
Yeah, Lisa, I can add more on it. So so YARP is mostly is basically a ASP.NET Core extension that enable you to write a ASP.NET web app that can also have the functionality for load balancing and reverse proxy functionality. So as it's ASP.NET Core library, so essentially it's cross-platform that you can run it on Windows or Linux. In terms of comparison versus NGINX, my takeaway is the main difference are two things. One is the ecosystem. For YARP, as Nathan already mentioned, it's more towards to the ASP.NET and ASP.NET Core developer because it's a library. You have to write some code to bootstrap YARP into an actual web server that can do load balancing. And if you want to deploy it on Azure, for example, today, you have to build your app and then run it in certain host environment on Azure. On the other side, NGINX is NGINX Plus is a mature, top-ranked load balancer and reverse proxy solution that is enterprise grade and also most widely adopted. So it's not really limited to the ecosystem of ASP.NET Core. So from that perspective, the audience or use case of these two products may be slightly different. Another part is YARP is relatively new. And from feature set perspective, I do think NGINX Plus provides more feature set and also targets more scenarios. NGINX Plus not only targets to reverse proxy or load balancing, it can also do application acceleration, like compression, like content caching, those kind of scenarios. So that's my comparison on these two.
That's excellent. Thanks, Yanbing. Another question that came up was whether there were any features like the, such as like the NGINX App Protect, like the WAF and the DDoS. Are there any plans to bring some of those features to the NGINX as a service for Azure?
I think as mentioned earlier, it's certainly a direction that we would like to go. It's not there yet. We started with that with this specific use case, but as anyone who's a user and a fan of NGINX knows that there's a lot that can be added. But that is, we'd like to get into more of the security aspects of NGINX App Protect over time, certainly.
Fantastic. Question came in from Srini. Is this a regional service?
Yeah, so it will be presented in all regions. I believe there's I don't have the list in front of me, but I think does anyone have the list of availability zones in front of them at the moment? And the rollout schedule for those?
For the moment, we support West Central US, West US, East US 2, Australia East, and West Europe will be live here in a week or two. And we will be continuing to add new Azure regions as customers request them.
Cool, thank you.
And I will paste that in the chat as well for people that didn't hear me the first time.
Great.
To add to that, to add Nathan's point, I believe NGINX deployment today is indeed a regional service, means the NGINX, actual NGINX instance is deployed in a particular Azure region. But you can, if you want to build like a global resilient service on top of this, you can combine like NGINX for Azure solution with deploy it in multiple regions, and then you can put some traffic manager or Azure load balancer, on top of it to make it, resilient to regional failures.
Awesome. Any plans, or is there already a feature that where you can deploy? If a customer's workload is basically across multiple AZs, availability zones, does NGINX as a service support that?
I believe that NGINX for Azure should support workloads that are across availability zones. There is a little bit of work around ensuring that we are resilient to availability zone failures that we're working on right now. But if your application is, we can route traffic there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, hey Sean, I also think it's good to call out. So there have been a couple of posts in the Q&A for our attendees. So the docs link has been posted to the Q&A. Let me see. There's also there's a change log in there, so you can see what updates have arrived. And there's a bunch of other information in there as well that should be helpful. We're also, the reason why we're in this public preview state, as is typical for new services that roll out to Azure, is we're really interested in getting your feedback. So any feedback is always welcomed and appreciated. So please, as you dive into the service, don't hesitate to provide that. And we will be responsive to that feedback. All right. Nathan, what was the question we were going to ask you? Does NGINX for Azure make tea? Is that it?
Yes. We, in a manner of speaking, we can make tea. Thanks to the lovely HTTP status code of 418, I am a teapot. You can upload that example NGINX conf to NGINX for Azure, and it will return I am a teapot, just like HTTP says it should.
Nice. Making tea.
Eric, did you already talk to the key vault integration?
I did.
Okay, cool.
I did. Yeah, I went over all the integrations. See if there's anything else we can.
Just wanted to call that out because it's really, I mean, for customers who are already using Azure Key Vault to store their SSL keys and certs, you know, we have essentially an easy option that allows you to sort of reference those in your NGINX config. And that's huge from a security posture point of view.
Certainly, yeah, it's a huge value add. You know, we haven't, as we've highlighted things here, and maybe Ashok, if so the value of BYOC and how you apply your configurations, that might be helpful for people to hear a little bit more about. If you'd be interested in sharing with our audience.
Well, essentially, I think we have a few different options for users to be able to specify their configs. I think one option is through the config editor that we expose on the portal. We expect customers who are just trialing out the solution to go that route, and it has some really nice capabilities in terms of highlighting, syntax highlighting, and exposing what options we support, and some help and documentation around those. And then for the more seasoned and experienced users or automation workflows, we also allow users to drop in their configs through a tarball option. So essentially bundle up their configs and associated sort of files into a tarball and upload those. One word of caution here is that we don't currently support all the available sort of directives in the HTTP space. We only support limited subset, and so, but we do call these out as part of the upload, and if things fail, we clearly call out, what options we support versus not.
Awesome, thank you, Ashok.
Yeah, I'd like to add one feature I feel proud of, but it is probably not very obvious in this diagram, is the deployment model with the integration with Azure Vnet. So for secure communication, for secure load balancing and reverse proxying, customer typically need the NGINX and the actual backend being the same private network. And in this, in NGINX for Azure, we have direct integration with Azure Vnet. Means when customer choose to deploy an NGINX, the NGINX are actually deployed into the customer Vnet. And we use the greatest and latest Vnet injection technology to ensure that customer can apply policy after the injection, lock down the Vnet without worrying about open certain public IPs for management access, like Azure Vnet usually requires. So this essentially allow customer to follow the zero trust model to completely lock down their Vnet after NGINX deployment, so that they have a complete confidence on the security connection between NGINX and their application.
Awesome, thank you, Yombi. Okay. Do we want to, Nathan, do you want to talk a little bit about how one might manually do key rotation?
Sure. Right now with NGINX for Azure, you can store your TLS certificates in an Azure Key Vault. When you create an NGINX for Azure instance, you reference the certificate in that Key Vault, and you'll need a managed identity that has permission to the Key Vault in order to be able to load the certificate. We do not actively pull the Key Vault constantly right now. So if you have to update your certificate, and that is just an aspect of all you need to do is re-associate the certificate with our service, and that action triggers an update of the configuration of the certificate, and we will get the new version. So it is pretty easy to do. We're hoping that becomes more automated in the future, but it's a quick and easy step right now.
Awesome. Any other topics of interest?
One thing I was going to ask Nathan was, maybe talk about, what versions of things do we deploy as part of our, NGINX deployments? I mean, is it always running latest stable versions of NGINX? What are we providing? Security patches? Does that get applied?
When you create an NGINX for Azure deployment, it is always running the latest patched version of NGINX Plus, as well as the underlying Ubuntu operating system. We have made sure that those patches are applied, and we are rebuilding our images constantly and validating those new images.
So a question came in, will it support more than 400 rewrite rules?
If you would like to work with us on that nginx.conf, I am sure I would be delighted to work with you to make sure that works. Reach out to us and we will work with you. I'm sorry to say I don't have a unit test for that quite yet, but now that you say it, I'm going to make sure Andrew gets that implemented.
Okay, just a minute or two left here. Any final questions from the attendees? Okay. Well, I guess sort of in closing, we're let me actually post this. Sorry, that didn't work. I'm not able to grab this whole link. Someone grab the feedback link from chat and post it in. We are posting a feedback link in the chat in the Q&A. For those of you that would like to provide feedback, it's always appreciated. So welcome that. And otherwise, I think we just want to say thank you for attending. We appreciate all the questions. We hope that we've addressed them all sufficiently. And please be in touch as you use the service. We're excited to get feedback from that experience.